right, we're live. We're live. Hello and welcome to Talk Heathen. Today is May 16th, 2021, Season 5, Episode 20. I am Johnny Angel, but I'm not alone. I have Kenneth Leonard sitting right next to me. How you doing, Kenneth?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good too. And I'm so excited to be here with you today. This is your first time being a host of the show. It's certainly my time being in the hot seat, the hostess seat. So thank you so much for being here with me. And I look forward to doing the show with you. I have for a while, and looking forward to seeing you on this show in the near future as well.
I just feel safe being in your hands on my maiden voyage. So yeah, I'm just happy to be here.
Gifted hands. Well, we'll see about that. Just so everyone knows, Kenneth is going to be a rotating host here on Talk Heathen, as well as Rudy B and a few other hosts whose identities will be revealed in the coming weeks. And you might be seeing me. You might be seeing me now and again here and there too, right, Katie? But whatever the hell that's supposed to mean, I don't know. But Kenneth, of course, we've met before. We've done the nonprofits together.
Right. The flagship show of the ACA, as many people have said.
That's right. A lot of people are talking about that, and I think a lot of people are right.
Yeah.
I really had fun doing that show with you, and I know I want to have you on before I asked you before if you'd be on. You committed to it. You signed it in blood, as atheists always do.
Right.
So we'll see you there again soon. Speaking of the nonprofits, I would be a dishonorable fool if I did not mention that, as always, the nonprofits have an episode on right after this show at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. We got 4 nonprofits this week. We got Arden and Eden, Jenna Mew, special guest Katie Stewart, and Malty as conductor. And this week they're going to be talking about how Louisiana is teaching the good side of slavery. That ought to be rich. How there is some stiff competition for the Texas nativity scene. They're going to talk about televangelist and alleged charlatan Jim Bakker is facing bankruptcy. I say alleged because, that means with all due respect, sir. And then you can say whatever.
Right.
And then you don't get in trouble, right?
Right.
He's facing bankruptcy, so poor boy. And then we're going to be finishing up the show with a looking back segment, looking back at the man who somehow lost a teapot on the way to Mars. Bertrand Russell. I don't know much about that, but that's something about it. I read the notes. He lost a teapot. I help run that show. All right. And I can tell you that this episode was fun to make. It's going to be fun to watch. And I hope that all you heathens out there will tune in at 3 to catch up on the latest episode of The Nonprofits. You can see that below at the YouTube link, youtube.com/thenonprofitsaca. But supposing you were more of a listener and you would like, as I do, to catch up on ACA content while you're doing something else, like when you're driving to work or you're doing the dishes or you are accumulating mad gains in your home gym. Well, then do I have news for you. The ACA has an audio-only channel. All of the Atheist Experience Network content has been transmuted into podcast form. Yes, you can listen to Secular Sexuality, Truth Wanted, The Nonprofits, AXP, and Talk Heathen at tiny.cc/AEN podcasts. So let me just go ahead and talk about the ACA. As always, this show is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the separation of religion and government and the promotion of positive atheism. If you haven't done already, please become a member. Join by clicking the join button below the video. And if you haven't already done so, you really ought to. You ought to subscribe to this channel, click like, ring the bell, so you can always get notified when a new episode comes out. But I can tell you, it's at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can join our fan-run social media outlets, the Atheist Community of Discord, at tiny.cc/ACA Discord. You can join us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/talkheathenfg. If you watch us live, and you really should, unless you're listening, of course. You can join us in the live chat, and many of you are there right now. If you can afford to support us and you would like to do so, you can do so by becoming a patron at patreon.com/talkheathen2me. Your donations go to creating more content, funding community service projects, and otherwise promoting the mission of the ACA. We will read the names of our top 5 patrons today a bit later, so stay tuned to hear your name called out. And if you have already decided to buy something on Amazon, and I'm going to put many asterisks around that one, okay? If you have already decided to purchase something on Amazon, you can support the ACA by shopping at smile.amazon.com and selecting the Atheist Community of Austin as your charity. Shopping through Amazon Smile doesn't raise the price of your item, but a small portion of that purchase price will come to the ACA. And of course, we want to hear from our listeners and our viewers. Email us at heathens, plural, at atheist-community.org. I think that's everything. Did I cover it all?
I think you crushed it. Yeah.
Well, it's down there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Ethan, what have you... Ethan.
I've been called worse. Don't worry about it.
I'm going to call you Kevin before this show is over. Kenneth.
Yeah.
Leonard.
Yo.
Kenneth Leonard.
That's me.
What have you been up to? What have you been up to lately? What have you been doing?
I mean, I do a bit of this here and there on the internet, like taking calls and talking to people about what they believe and why. I've got my own YouTube channel. I'm sure by now the mods have dropped a link tree in there. So if people want to see more of that stuff that I do, they certainly can. But mostly just getting ready for this. This is super exciting.
I know.
Yeah.
This has been pretty exciting. I can barely contain myself. So let's not contain ourselves any longer.
Yeah.
Let's release ourselves into
all over the callers,
and they can do the same thing to us.
Precisely.
It's Thursday somewhere. Looking at our callers.
Yeah.
Kenneth, what are you thinking?
I'm looking at number 2.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's talk.
Let's pull up number 2.
Yeah, let's talk to Leo. Leo in Wisconsin, it looks like. How you doing?
Yeah.
I understand
you've moved. Good. This is my first time. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I understand you've moved to a more conservative area for work, and you're dealing with some ethical challenges working for some new people.
Yeah. So I graduated in December of 2019 with a journalism degree, and I'm from a small city in Wisconsin, and that's where I went to college. And it was the campus was more liberal than here. I just moved to a TV station, a broadcast news station that's like a small affiliate. The goal is to branch out to larger cities like Austin eventually, but it's sort of like a breeding ground. So it's like a really small city in the middle of Wisconsin, and it's a lot more conservative than any place I've ever lived, and I'm just having a hard time finding my kind of people. I did look online to see if there was like an atheist community, and there is one like Central Wisconsin Atheist or something like that, but it's pretty much inactive. So I guess I'm just calling to ask for some advice on how to find my kind of people, and also working with people who are mostly theists, because some of the quirks of living and working at a small affiliate is I find like this is the first time I've experienced people who are considered journalists who are like outspoken like Christians, and that's like an odd concept to me. It's almost like an oxymoron, because as a journalist you're taught to question everything. If your mother tells you you love her, find the evidence. You know?
Sure. Right. You're gonna need more sources than just yeah.
And not only that, but like our chief meteorologist doesn't believe in climate change, so that tells you like what kind of station it is, what kind of city I'm living in.
Yeah, heart goes out to you. Are you in central Wisconsin? Ish.
Yeah, like smack dab in the middle, a little bit north.
Well, I know that Milwaukee has a Milwaukee atheist group, but I think that's probably a couple of hours away. Do you have a car?
Yeah,
I'm
I do.
yeah,
It's like 2.5 hours away, I think.
that's a tough one. Well, I'll say this: this is not a good thing, but the quarantine and the coronavirus has caused groups like the ACA, like I'm sure the Milwaukee Atheist Group, and I'd like to get the name of that. Somebody could pop that up, but there's probably something in Madison as well. To meet virtually. A lot of us have been meeting virtually in online groups, Zoom meetings, playing games online, and places like that. They may have moved into a web presence in some way, and so I would explore that. But once that's over, I think people are going to be feverish to get together. That's maybe a bad choice of words, but they're going to be very eager to get together. There are people who believe or don't believe like you in your community. You just haven't identified them yet, and maybe they don't. If it's a very small town, they probably don't make a big note of it. But joining an online community could be a start. Someplace to start there. Also, I worked in a lot of office environments over the decades that I've been working in office environments, and I think most of the people that I worked with were believers. There's still a lot of things you have in common with them. You don't have to talk about transubstantiation.
I'm aware of that, and I've worked I've worked at places where there was a lot of theists, and I had no problem because I get along with the people that I work with pretty well. I think the difference this time around is that I work for a news company, so along with being theists, a lot of people around here are kind of very ignorant about a lot of things. Like one of our anchors used the term rain dance in a goofy way to talk about ooh, let's have a rain dance to have more weather, and they just don't understand Black Lives Matter issues and all that stuff like that. So I'm approaching those kind of stories from a different angle than most of the people, and sometimes I get some pushback. So I think that's the difference with this job.
It's interesting, I keep thinking about something with this whole call and the situation you're in, which is that for religious people, typically if you can move anywhere in the United States, and for example, I spent the early first 22 years of my life as a fundamentalist Christian, and I could move anywhere in the United States and find a church where I could just plug right into a community. We don't have that as skeptics.
Definitely one of the benefits.
Sure, the community aspect is huge. I wonder to what extent that keeps people invested in their religious beliefs. But I have found personally
it's a major factor.
I'm sure results may vary, depending on who you're talking to. But the online communities like what the ACA has created. If you get plugged into the Facebook groups that we have, you will find a number of people who can empathize with exactly what you're going through. I have had that happen over the last couple of years, to where some of my very closest friends, live in places like, Texas and Sweden even. There's people that I haven't met yet who are very close to me. And it's just one of the things where we're all kind of doing what we can to create as much of a community, not just here in the United States, but internationally, of skeptics and of atheists, because it's not like we can go plug into a church wherever we go.
Yeah. Check out the Discord. We talk about the Discord a lot on these shows, but it's true. There's stuff happening every day, all day. Someone's in there having a conversation about, it's not even about just atheism, because that would be kind of tiresome, right? It's everything under the sun. I know that Kelly talks sometimes about rocks, out there in Discord. He knows a lot about that stuff. He runs a rock shop. We're talking about movies. We're talking about TV shows. We're talking about art, talking about games, playing games sometimes together, board games, virtual board games, video games, joining together. There's lots of things you can do virtually. Yeah, it's not in person. There's a real value to being in person, but all of us are a little bit isolated now. We're starting to come out of it, but we're not there yet.
Yeah.
So plug in now while everyone is really invested in online community. And who knows, there's probably somebody the next town over who's pretty cool you can meet up with. hiking or whatever it is outside that's safe for you to do so at a distance until all this unfortunateness is over. But you're not alone. You have
not by a long shot.
Yeah. So please reach out there and email us if you have any troubles with that. But yeah, Discord's probably a good place to go for that.
Okay. Do you mind if I ask you one more question about like working environment with theists? Because one of the anchors I work with, she is very outspoken about her Christianity, and she talks about going to Bible class every week and stuff. And I hang out with her sometimes after work. We get along. We have a nice working relationship. And she's expressed to me that she's fine talking about her faith and discussing it. But the few times that I've attempted talking to her about it, and I've been trying to do it as gently as possible, I sense a lot of pushback and really entry-level bad arguments. Like, well, you have to have faith in, everyone has faith in something, you believed it at one point, that kind of thing. So I'm curious if, and I want to maintain the working relationship. I don't want to spoil it because I'm going to be here for a few years. So I'm curious if you want to maintain a good working relationship with somebody. I feel like, and she says she's open to discussing it, but I feel like if I do, it's going to sour it, but I'm really not sure. And I'm beginning right now to really get interested in street epistemology. I'm reading, what's that book? Manual Theist, and I think it's actually a really good tool for journalists. So I'm just curious what you think about that.
I would refer you to look at the work that Anthony Magnabosco has been doing. I don't know of anybody in the game who is better at having difficult conversations with people about what they believe and doing it in a way where there's no souring of any relationship, where people want to continue the conversations with him. So yeah, street epistemology is great. Before you said that, that's exactly where I was going to go with answering your question. I think that learning how to ask questions that are designed to get the person to think critically is probably the best thing you could hope to do in the situation that you're in. And if that person reaches a point of going, you're asking me to think about stuff that I don't want to think about, that's your signal to go, okay, hey, no harm, no foul here. We can still be colleagues and have a friendship. But to the extent that you want to explore this and hopefully, get them to think a little bit, I think you're on the right track with street epistemology.
Yeah. And I talk about situational awareness. If you have a good relationship with this person, your primary goal should be to continue this good relationship, because if you take a wrong turn, you might lose it. And it's hard to get that back. So make sure that although the person says they want to have conversations about this, that they actually do. You're reading body language. You're prepared to stop and switch gears and talk about something else. Once you build a rapport, once you care about each other, once there's an investment in each other as people and as friends, then you get a lot more leeway. I've mentioned this a bunch of times, and I really apologize for the viewers who are tired of hearing it, but I got buddies who are pretty religious, and we have occasional conversations about this. And I tell them, I had one this week. I don't want to ever make this get in the way, but you want to talk about it, let's talk about it, because I think it's interesting. And I think we have to figure out how to have difficult conversations with people that disagree with us and still be friends, or at least still respect each other. Because if we can't figure out how to talk with each other, we're just going to create enemies all down the line, and we'll continue to separate as a society. Yeah. So, and this is a microcosm of that, isn't it? But I think if you're just cautious and careful and respectful and the other person's enthusiastically engaging, you're probably pretty safe.
Yeah. And I'll add one more thing, if you don't mind, is that I think intention is key. I think that people, there's a huge difference. If someone tells you, I believe that I can communicate with the creator of the universe, and you're like, well, that's fucking dumb, and you make fun of him, or you start dropping, well, you've just committed a blah, blah, blah fallacy, and you're just trying to dunk on that person and communicate to them that you have figured something out that they haven't, or that you're smarter than them. There's a whole bunch of different ways to approach these conversations. And I think people pick up on what your intention is. If you sincerely are just going, listen, I want to believe true things, I don't want to believe false things, if we're on the same page there, let's explore these beliefs and ask a bunch of fun questions and get to the bottom of this stuff. Generally, I find that people don't find that objectionable. People, will engage with you. But the instant that you start making it about something else, the instant that ego enters the equation, that's where things go off the rails in a hurry, in my experience. Yeah.
Agreed. Did that help? Did that help?
And I fear that Yeah, it does. I fear that leaving the ego out is going to be tough for me because I tend to get triggered about certain phrases, which is why I'm learning about street epistemology to really pump the brakes on that.
I mean, you can, depending on what your relationship is with this person, you can be open about that.
Yeah.
I mean, there are certain topics where I tend to get really, really passionate very, very quickly. Like if someone tries to talk to me about like spanking kids or what the Bible, for example, has to say about how parents should, not spare the rod, at the risk of spoiling their kids. That is a thing that's very near and dear to me. And I tend to get very passionate about that. And I'll tell somebody right out of the gate, listen, I had experiences as a child that are directly related to what we're talking about here. So it's a little bit more to me than just this abstract thing to be discussing. And when I lay all that on the table, it makes the expectations for the other person as to what that conversation is about to be. It makes it clear. So if they want to keep going with it, they can. If not, they can disengage and it's fine. But that open communication, I think, again, is really, really key because, again, the intentions are really, really important when it comes to how useful you can expect a conversation to be.
Yeah, Leo, can I add one more thing? And I think we're going to have to let you go. And I've said this before, that when you get involved in this conversation with your coworker / friend, hopefully your friend who happens to be a coworker, right? That you're not going in there to deconvert, right? You're not going in there with the intention to change that person. You're going in there to understand and to have yourself and your views be understood. And that as a result, there may be deconversion. There may be just greater compassion and an openness. Their faith might change, but not disappear. And you've got to be ready for that. There's no end game in this. It's a journey, not the goal. Okay. So that's a little harder to mess up. And I think easier to keep your cool because you're just exploring a space with somebody and seeing where that goes.
Yeah.
So, Leo, thank you for calling. I really, what's that?
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I appreciate all the help. I have my best friend lives in Austin, and once my contract is up here, fingers crossed, I find a job over there, and I could spend my free time helping out over at the ACA. That would mean the world to me.
That'd be awesome.
It would be fantastic.
Leave just with I do want to leave just with a comment. I was listening to an episode from a couple of weeks ago, and somebody was talking about something that's timeless, and I just wanted to end with saying that I do know about something that you can consider timeless, and that is The Wizard of Oz. So keep that in mind.
All right. Noted.
Yeah, that's a classic. That's a classic. It's timeless. Thanks a lot, Leo. You take care. Call back. Let us know how it goes with your coworker and friend.
All right.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Great.
Sweet. Get plugged into the Facebook groups there, Leo. We'll keep this conversation going.
All right.
But
Kenneth,
for now.
Yeah, I might have stepped on some toes in office environments in the past. I had a buddy who was a Jehovah's Witness and in my office, and I love the guy. We would talk about 70s soul music and 80s stuff and movies, and he was an older fella, and we had a lot in common because I like some stuff that's been around for a while. And then we talked a little bit about the Jehovah's Witness organization, the Bible, a little bit. And you got to tread really carefully because that was his life's blood this is something that's running down the spine of this guy.
Sure.
And the way I approached it was, well, so-and-so, I get that. I don't know. I always had questions about this. I never really understood this. Can you explain how this works? Well, sure. Let me, Johnny, let me show you this website as we're using, work computers to talk about religion, which would have gotten us in HR trouble, but it didn't. It ended up being fine. And he gave me a tract when he left and a copy of his version of the Bible. And I really appreciated where it was coming from, even though I am no closer to becoming a Jehovah's Witness as a result of those conversations.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It took me a long time sort of an embarrassingly long time to figure out that meeting someone's statements of belief with "I'm not convinced" opens the door to better conversations than "that's ridiculous." You know what I mean? So I go through the same stuff with coworkers. I work with a lot of folks who I've been invited to church, and people, they've got good intentions. I hope, I assume. But when the conversation becomes, I'm not so sure about that. Why are you so sure about that? Then things get fun.
Well, Kenneth, let's move on to some calls. And by the way, we've got some atheist callers, but we'd love to hear some calls from some theists, some deists, some whatever you want to call yourselves, with some non-atheist callers. But I'm liking Levi in Colorado.
Levi, let's talk to Levi.
Yeah, what's that about?
Let's do it.
Levi, you're on with Kenneth and Johnny. I'm seeing that you believe that there is a growing othering happening and wondering if religion is playing a role in that. You're on Talk Heathen. Tell us a little bit about what you're thinking there.
Well, hi, Johnny and Kenneth. Thank you for taking my call. It's a first-time caller, so
good to have you.
So basically what I think is happening is there's almost a cult of vaccinated people that's growing. And what's happening is there's shunning and othering happening for people who are vax hesitant or unable to get the vaccine. And I find it to be overall damaging when I hear people, and it's happening a lot in the atheist community, when I hear them say, we will only hang out with vaccinated people, because the science doesn't support that. The truth of the matter is unvaccinated people don't pose much of a risk if you're fully vaccinated to you, but you are putting a huge social barrier in place by refusing to hang out with people who are vax hesitant.
I'm gonna take this one, Kenneth. Right start. Let's say, and I'm not saying you are, Levi, but let's say that you're not vaccinated, and you hang out with me, and I am, and you are not completely immune from contracting the virus. It could happen. Engaging in social environment, like a busy social environment with lots of, let's say, mask on, mask off situations, drinking from your tea or whatever it might be, or your beer, there's still a possibility of contracting the virus. And although you might accept that, you might accept the risk because you believe that the risk is minimal or negligible or acceptable to you. I'm not going to accept that because I am not being, I'm not telling you what you can do, but I'm not going to be responsible for you infecting someone else. I'm not going to do it. You can choose to do whatever you want, but I'm not going to do it. And I think that's a free expression. It's a choice. And I don't want there to be an othering to the extent that there's hate or derision or disrespect, because I think there's a lot of information. I think some of that information has been confusing in the news. If you're not an expert, if you don't study this, if you're getting your news from sources that are analyzing analyses, which are the product of more analyses, and you get pretty far down that pipeline, and pretty much it's just opinion after a certain point when you don't go to the root sources of the info. But I'm just not going to. I'm not going to do it. And I'm not going to hate you for it, but I'm not going to hang out with you because I don't want to be a part of that problem. Does that answer
medical autonomy, though?
Do I believe in medical autonomy? Do you mean like that each person has the right
to? Yes, like it's somebody else's private medical information. For example, like if a person with a uterus gets an abortion, do you believe that you have a right to know why that person got an abortion? Or is it just their personal private information?
No, I don't think I do. I don't think I have a right to know.
There are plenty of people who, excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, there's a delay. It's okay. It's okay, Levi. Continue. What were you saying?
So to me, I see this bit of information as the same as any other medical information. It's private, right? So if you ask somebody if they're vaccinated or not, and let's say they're comfortable sharing with you that they're not, and then you say, oh, well, I can't hang out with you, but they have a medical preclusion that keeps them from getting vaccinated, that's none of your business why they're not vaccinated. And it could be as simple as I just don't trust it yet, or it could be an actual immunodeficiency that they cannot get a vaccine for, that they can't have the vaccination. So that leads into prying into other people's medical information that's a level of something that I'm not comfortable with. And overall, I find that my influence, if I'm a vaccinated person, would be much more influential to hang out with non-vaccinated people and convincing them if they're vaccine hesitant, than putting a social barrier in place and trying to tell them, hey, I'm trying to keep you from infecting a whole bunch of other people. The fact is this thing is mutating and vaccinated people can still catch it and transmit it themselves as well. So we're all taking a risk of some sort. Obviously, there's, an increased risk if you're not vaccinated. And we need everybody to get vaccinated. We absolutely do, because we need to slow down the transmission and the mutation. So I'm not arguing against that. My concern is that we're creating social barriers by the way that you're approaching it, by saying, well, I'm not going to hang out with you because if you're not vaccinated, then you could be causing harm to others. Well, you don't know why I'm not vaccinated, or you don't know why that person isn't vaccinated, and you don't have a right to that information either. So it kind of leads down this rabbit trail, I think, of what I see is emerging is that kind of doxing of medical privacy, excuse me, and then also robbing us of an opportunity to educate people who are vaccine hesitant.
Well, this is a really interesting question, because first of all, privacy is not an absolute right for anybody. There are absolutely situations where we recognize that it is beneficial ethically and socially for someone's privacy rights to be violated.
I agree.
Leaving that aside, the question, the example of abortion was interesting to me, because whether or not somebody gets an abortion has nothing to do with anybody else's well-being. It's not like abortions are contagious, So to me, there's a problem with that in terms of analogy. So to the extent that individual people and their choice to get a vaccine or not can affect the well-being of other people, I think that it might be okay to ask about it. And I'm gonna put one more thing on the table, and I do want to hear your response. I am fully in favor of creating certain social barriers. So I want to hang out with people, broadly speaking, whose values are consistent with mine. So if somebody has a medical reason for not being able to get vaccinated, that's not in any way a barrier to spending time with that person. I wouldn't want there to be any social boundaries there at all. But if somebody is...
But they don't have any obligation to disclose the reason why they're not vaccinated to you.
They do if they want to hang out with me.
See, and I feel like you're putting a social barrier there that precludes you from being able to then influence somebody who might just be vax hesitant versus somebody who's not able to be vaccinated.
Maybe. But if somebody is, and I know people who are like this, who just reject science, or who think that doing quote unquote research while sitting on the toilet on their phone on Facebook is, the same as people doing research in a laboratory. I don't want to hang out with those people. I don't want to hang out with people who are.
Science indicates. But the science indicates that an unvaccinated person, if you are fully vaccinated, poses very little risk to you. And overall, our mission now needs to be...
But that's not what I'm talking about.
Which requires us... Okay, I apologize then. Continue your thought.
Yeah, whether or not that person poses an immediate risk to me, I'm vaccinated, is not the issue. The issue to me is that I think there essentially should be social costs associated with the rejection of science, or people who just flat out don't want to get a vaccine because they think that they're asserting some sort of right to freedom. Okay. In the same way that, like, if somebody was a racist or like transphobic or something, I don't want to hang out with you. There's a barrier there. And if you want to be a transphobe, knock yourself out. Go be a shitty person. But I don't have to be around it.
I'm a trans man, so I'm not much of a transphobe.
I
understand.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I understand the argument that's like, well, by not hanging out with that person, I can't then make an argument to them to compel them to be a better person or to think more critically about the world. And that's fine. I mean, I'm here on the internet talking to strangers, trying to, promote skepticism, but in my own life, I don't want to hang out with people who hold certain like views that I would think of as being reprehensible.
Can I chime in? I get it. I get it. There is a matter of medical privacy in this, but kind of all of our medical state is very relevant. It's very relevant at this point to the well-being of society and getting back to where we need to be. I actually don't need to know exactly what might prevent somebody from taking the vaccine, from getting the vaccine. I think for me, I just need to know that it's not just some cockamamie, I looked it up on the internet, or
Yeah.
I like to tinker with my own medication, and I think that I don't need it. If I get, and again, it comes down to trust, because I'm not going to ask for their medical records to see them. There's a social contract that you're going to tell the truth, and if I feel that the person isn't telling the truth, they've broken the social contract, and I don't want to be social with them. But I'm not going to be a big jerk about it. I hope not.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say, and I'm going to say you, Levi. I'm not going to say you, but like, Levi, I'm sorry. Like, you're not vaccinated. You have your reasons. I'm just going to have to, wait until, we got herd immunity, or you get the vaccine, or it's no longer considered a risk. And I wish you the best. And let's stay in touch on the phone. Let's meet up in Zoom. Let's meet in the park at 50 paces and do that. But I'm not going to get next to you. And it's not that I think you're gross or anything. It's that I have to think a little bigger than just your feelings and my feelings, just for a little while longer. Actually, for the rest of my life, technically, I have to be considering society.
Well,
So
I agree with that. I think that at the rate this thing mutates, and unfortunately vaccinated people can still catch and transmit it, and it could possibly still mutate within a vaccinated person and be transmitted to another vaccinated person. There's infinite ways that this virus has changed our society forever and ever. But one of the ways that I just really am disappointed in is how it's creating just this, just the fact that we have to have this conversation. I find that to be much more damaging overall. And I'm not claiming that the virus hasn't been damaging. I mean, 500,000 people dead is truly tragic. The biggest tragedy of my lifetime. But the other millions of people who have been suffering from depression, from being locked in their homes, fiscally destroyed, all of these things, and we're able to emerge now. And the science is indicating that unvaccinated people pose mostly a risk to themselves.
I'll tell you what, Levi. You keep going. Levi, I'm gonna pause you there. Please, just let me say this. I get you, and I think the main tone here is everyone out there. If you think you're right, stop being a dick about it.
Really?
Just be compassionate. Here. This is a little bit of the Kenneth and Johnny attitude towards the show. Fucking stop being a dick. Be nice. Listen. Be compassionate. But you can be firm about it. You can still say there's a line in this. There's a line, Donnie. There's a line, and we're not going to cross that line, right? But
yeah, and
kisses from far away.
With my sort of advocacy for certain social pressures, I would agree wholeheartedly with Johnny. Like there's no need to be an asshole about it, but I do think that social pressure can be very, very useful for moving us closer to a society that we all want to live in. Was all I was trying to say.
Well, yes, of course, and we operate like that as a species, anyways, because we're social species.
Can't help it.
What I'm concerned about is the trend towards the cult-like behavior modification of, we're going to try and manipulate you into getting this vaccine, which makes you really uncomfortable, and you have probably some good reasons why you are uncomfortable with it. But instead of investing in you personally, we're going to try and do it over the internet and call you names.
Levi, you say manipulating, and I think we reached a point of harmony, and I think we're starting to part. So let's just stop at this point.
Oh, well, I'm talking about other people on the internet, like what you said about not being a dick. I'm in full agreement with you on all of that. Okay. I just think that it needs to be a personal approach and less of a mob mentality.
Yes, less of a mob mentality, a community spirit, but a community spirit informed by, in personal information and educating yourself. Levi, thank you so much for calling. Look forward to the world getting back to normal, and I hope that everyone who can get the vaccine gets it to protect those who cannot, and that those who have it aren't acting like a bunch of drongos
for sure
to others. Okay, so talk to you again sometime. Kenneth, have you run into any of that in your personal life? Have you?
I had a friend who had a baby recently, and she's one of those people who is of the opinion that the vaccine's a big hoax. And when she had delivered her baby, and the nurses wanted to give her a rapid COVID test before bringing the baby in for her to hold, and she wouldn't do it. Mm-hmm. On principle. She's going, no, I'm not going to do this. And I mean, the extent to which people are confused about the vaccine, about science more generally, is extremely frustrating. So I kind of don't blame them. I think that our educational system has failed these people. But you know, yeah, I agree with you that we don't need to be dicks about it.
Yeah,
firm, but not dicks.
Firm. Yes, let's leave it there.
I got you. Yeah,
let's leave it there. Looking at the queue, we've got atheist callers, but gee willikers, I know there are theists out there, and so we'd like to have some more folks.
Theists, have your pastor or priest or imam, have them call in. We've been dying to talk to them. They never call. So yeah, they say they can do better. They represent to you that their faith is strong and they have good reasons for their faith. I'm assuming they would say that. I don't know why they would say, "Well, I'm pretty flimsy on my faith, but you should listen to me." Have them call. It could be the case that God just doesn't want to be convincing today. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mysterious ways.
Yeah, mysterious ways. In the meantime, there's a guy I'd like to talk to in the queue. Are you seeing this guy?
Guys are cool. Yeah, let's do it.
Let's see. Guy in Georgia. How the heck are you doing?
Yes, my name is Guy, and I'm in Atlanta, and I was noticing that your last caller was actually talking about weather, and I'm a meteorologist now, so there you go. So I'm very, very much in tune with science. I'm also a Southern Baptist minister's son, and grew up in. I have some stories I can tell you about being a Southern Baptist minister's son in apartheid South Georgia back during the 1960s. Oh boy! But one reason why, the science is one reason why I'm becoming more and more an agnostic every day. More that I read and study the Bible and study other literature and that sort of thing. But the one thing, and you probably hear this over and over and over again, is that people who are theists are so disappointed that the last thing they can't let go of, and it's one of the things that I have a hard time letting go of, because all throughout my childhood and formative years, I was promised that if I followed Christ, I would be going to heaven. Right. And coming to grips with that is probably my hardest thing to let go of. So there you go.
Is it the promise of heaven, Guy, or is it the end of life? Because whenever heaven's been described to me, even as a kid, it just sounded like shit. Like I'm going to be up there, and trust me, it's going to be great. Let me lay it out for you. You sing the praises of God all day. You know, no one's sick, no one's old. Well, that's good to not be sick. No one gets old, no one dies. Well, that sounds okay. You sing the praises of God every day, okay, and it lasts forever and ever and ever. Okay, well, what can I do? Oh, you're just in bliss all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like the farm that the dog went to upstate. You know, it just sounds too nice. So is it death or is it heaven that you're...
I think it's a little bit of both. It's both the end of life, or totality of life, and heaven.
Well,
but to bring let's do a little bit something a little bit different here. Well, maybe
let's see if we're going to see if they're going to do
Throw
something.
throw us a curveball, guy.
What you got? We're ready. Hold on. Both feet on the ground. Hold on a second. All right. What?
To spice up the conversation. Are you there?
Yeah.
We're here.
I never left.
Okay. Spice
I've
up.
always been here.
Okay. All right. Of course, I don't agree with. Actually, I've written a book on climatology for kids, but that's not today's subject. So anyway, I'm very, very much agreement with evolution and the fact that the universe is about 17.5 billion years old. So now all that time and all the time to come, which we actually think the universe is going to be around for billions and billions of more years. What is the chance? What is the chance of you having only one life or being sentient during all that particular time?
You know what? Yeah, what are the odds?
I don't have the. What are the odds? Well, mathematically,
100%.
Yeah,
Here we are.
Here we are.
Let's see. Well, if it's 1 in 100 billion, here we are. And
what are the units on that, guy? What are the units?
Let me ask you this.
Let's see. What is it? Let's see. 100 billion would be. How many zeros do we have here?
Hang on, guy. Because as much as I know that the viewers love listening to people do math, but there's something interesting going on here that I'd like to try to explore with you. So, in your initial, the first part of the conversation, you're talking about heaven, and then you talked about how you like science and you have done work writing a children's book about climatology. So, when you were talking about the idea of losing heaven being a thing that kind of keeps you anchored to certain beliefs, I wanted to ask you this, a two-part question. One, to what extent do you care about whether or not your beliefs are true? Is the first question. And the two-parter thing is this: if you encountered somebody who looked at the climate science and said, the idea of global warming is so alarming to me that I just can't bring myself to believe it. I don't want that thing to be true. It is comforting to me to believe that global warming is not a thing. What would your response be to that?
Well, we'd go through the 5 steps of denial. And by the way, I'm not saying that I still believe in heaven. No. I'm saying that I'm just very, very disappointed that there's no such thing, in my opinion, now.
Sure.
No, I don't think we're confusing that. I think the question is this.
The question. Okay.
Guy, let me just bring us back. I think what Kenneth is going with is when we're talking about climate change, he's relating that back to the loss of the belief in heaven and dealing with that, because that's a real thing. A lot of people talk about that. Some people, it's the fear of burning in hell. Some people, it's the loss of this ultra-billion-dollar prize that they were promised since childhood, and the feelings of betrayal and loss and grief over that. And some people, like me, have talked about this before. Johnny going to put a sad hat on, but it's like, oh, I like being alive. Can I have more of that? Yeah, but only a little more. How much more? Oh, 50 more years. And then what? Totally, you're dead. Oh, I don't like that. I want to see what new movies come out. I want to have more food from around the world. I want to meet aliens, but if they exist. But that's really the question. It's a matter of dealing with hard to accept truths.
Yeah.
And whether it's climate change, because a lot of people would rather say, oh, it's not real. It's not real because it's so horrifying to imagine. Or with the loss of heaven, it's too painful to realize that I've been wrong. I've been banking on this, that I've been geared up for this. I'm so excited. I'm going to see grandma again. I'm going to see, Grandpa Floyd, whatever. Then, but you can't just play that game of denial. You have to kind of zero in on the truth and learn to live with it, incorporate it into the true facts of your life. And that's a personal journey that all of us are on. and every one of us deals with it differently. Of course, we have recovering from religion might be a place to go to for that, because they deal with that issue. Joining the community, because I think every single one of us here who has once believed had to deal with that loss and the loss of a family member that you'll never see again. But you got to do it, because you can only juggle wishful, favorable thoughts for so long before the balls fall down.
Yeah. I mean, this is why I always resort back to asking people about how much do they care about whether their beliefs are true. Because I meet a lot of people who talk to me about how they sort of justify their beliefs by this appeal to what's comforting. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but sometimes we have to just deal with things as they are. And I can understand the appeal of holding on to a belief because it's comforting, but I don't think that's a good reason to believe something.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But
looks like we lost Guy.
We did. I feel like I'm seeing in the queue. I think we might have another Theist caller. Line number 11. What do you think there, John?
Yeah, let me say this. Let me put the capstone on Guy. I think that's really what you got to do. You have to just face the truth front and center, and surround yourself with people who are supportive. Yeah. Find people who are experts, and then move forward on that. But Guy, I want you to call back, telling us the strangest story about growing up with a pastor in your family. Just not today. We're gonna want you to call back though, because I liked your tone. You had a good demeanor.
A friendly guy.
Friendly guy. Yeah. Let's move on to, who was that? Who did you want to take?
Number 11.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's dive in. Is it Tineshe?
Yes, it's Tineshe.
Hey, you know what? Pat on my back for getting the pronunciation right out of the gate. That could have gone a lot of different ways, my friend.
Yeah, take those wins while you can get them. Yeah.
I'm impressed.
How you doing? What did you want? Yeah, what do you want to talk about today?
Yeah. Thank you for taking my call today. So I just wanted to talk about feeling like a purpose in life after you become an atheist. Because I'll just give you a background of where I grew up and what it was like. So I grew up in a country called Zimbabwe in Southern Africa. So my whole family is super religious, and everything that I did was kind of connected to the church that I grew up in. And then they kind of helped me with a lot of things growing up. They paid for tuition when I was going to school, and everything was kind of centralized towards the church. Then I got a scholarship to come to college in the U.S., and I came to college in the U.S. and I was still super religious, but I kind of started learning more about what I believed in, because I was always critical, and I realized most of the things that didn't make any sense. But I reached a stage when I kind of still hold on to my beliefs, but I kind of am convinced that it doesn't make any sense. But also I feel like it gave me a sense of purpose, where I came from, all the things that I went through. I kind of just felt like I had a purpose in life, so that kind of kept on driving me. But now I'm kind of struggling. If I let go of this, how am I going to find a purpose in life? So that's kind of what I wanted to kind of hear from you. How were you? I'm not sure if both of you were theists at some point, but how do you kind of make that transition?
That's a great question, Kenneth. Go ahead, take it away.
So I was a theist for a very long time, and went through the process for me of letting go of all that. Took about 3 years from when I first started really questioning things to when I was oh my God, I'm an atheist. So I found that when I left Christianity behind, that a lot of my values and purpose remained completely unchanged. I still cared very much about my family. I still, wanted to pursue a career. I still wanted my life to sort of have all the same attributes as before. The idea of sort of pursuing what was going to be, consistent with my values, that didn't go away. It just went from thinking that there was going to be some, reward at the end of the tunnel. There's a finish line, and then I get to go to this praise God party that I can never leave, like the previous caller touched on. But now, there's just this idea of I have better reasons, I think, to do good now than I did then. Now, wanting to leave the world is a better place than it was when I got here. The reasons for that are based on sort of a rational consideration of the effects that my actions have on other people, and whether or not that makes a God happy has nothing to do with anything. So. I don't know how much that's useful to you, but I think that you're free as a non-theist to find purpose everywhere, anywhere. It's up to you.
Yeah, I'm going to try your name. Tineshe, is that right?
Yeah, Tineshe.
Tineshe. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. My experience was different. I was a kid. Growing up Catholic, and I didn't really. My purpose was, quite honestly, playing video games, running around, setting fire to things, and eventually, girls and stuff. But there was no purpose for me through the church and my faith. I think I started fading a little too early for that. But I think that everyone really finds their own purpose. And studies have found that there are two things. I was just talking about this the other day with some friends. Two things can help people find meaning in life, tend to find meaning in life. One is community. It's such a cheesy word. We say community all the damn time. And we're going to say it again at the end because I got some things to say about that at the end. But it's also service. I'm not saying you need to serve some organization or you need to serve a particular political party or a church or anything, but giving of yourself to others who are in need of it, whatever that is. Teaching someone how to read, helping a kid with math, helping someone build a ramp, like with the Texas Ramp Project, handing out necessities to homeless people. Asking someone who's shut in their house. These are the charitable aspects of religious groups that are not they're not solely belonging to religious groups. These are human needs. And taking yourself and making you more than just this. What does Yoda say about that? We're more than this. I can't remember. Oh, come on, Johnny. I'm better than that. Well, Star Trek sucks. But I mean, I had a nice little Yoda speech, but it's true. We're more than just this flesh bag, this ugly bag of mostly water. There's a Star Trek one for you. We're an entity that exists in society. We're interconnectedness. And by helping others, we become bigger than ourselves. It doesn't necessarily aggrandize our ego. We're not bigger, but now we are interconnected with others. And that tends to create a sense of meaning and purpose. And yeah, you get wrapped up in some other people's drama a little bit more. But you know what? We all need a shoulder to lean on now and again. Isn't that a song? Lean on me? Oh God. But yeah, a service and community and service. And maybe it's a little bit of a fake it till you make it. But I think that when you see someone's face and you see them show you gratitude, and that you are a source of comfort, and that you can't help but feel connection. And that might short circuit this cerebral attitude of my meaning. What is my purpose? This egocentric view of oneself as an entity in itself, because we're never by ourselves. We always are in context of society. So make the world a better place, however that is to you. And we're not going to tell you how to do it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think like the way I've always viewed like growing up and just the path that I took, I just felt like I had a purpose to help out people that I grew up around with, and I guess I just need to figure out a way of not sort of ascribing that to something, planning everything that okay, I have to do this and help people. And I think just I kind of just struggling with just the idea that everything kind of just happened and I'm here, and I just need to help people. Like in my head, it like felt better that there was sort of like a deity out there that's kind of like taking care of me and like making me go through this path, and like it's my job to kind of like help like these people. But so that's like the part that I'm kind of struggling, like not giving it to this like.
Those people still need help. Those people need help whether the deity's there or not. You know?
Yeah, just get out there and do it. Find a cause that is easily needed. Like, you don't have to get esoteric about it. There are people who need to work in soup kitchens. There are people, the Austin Diaper Bank needs donations. I remember seeing notifications for that. But babies from poor families need diapers. Can you help? Go there. Maybe you'll find your meaning there. Because there's nothing wrong with babies having diapers. There's nothing problematic about it. But Tineshe, we gotta go. Get out there, do something. Go find a charity. Go find some people that need your help and be there for them.
Or animals. Go down to your shelter and adopt a half dozen pit bulls. You know, why not?
Do it.
It'll make you feel good. I'm telling you.
It will. Go and do it. Call back. Report back what you felt. Okay.
All right. Yeah, sounds good. Thank you guys for taking my call.
Thanks.
Talking with you. We have got to cover the top 5 patrons this week. Again, we had people donating during the show. We really appreciate it. You can make your donations to the ACA through patreon.com/Talk Heathen to me. The top 5 patrons this week are Eric Tweet, CJ Dennis, the inestimable Dingleberry Jackson. Yeah. Desert Heathen, and Bethany P. Thank you so much for your monetary donation. We do appreciate it. And it goes to a good cause. I think we ought to take Jose.
I'm super into Jose from California. Jose from California, what's going on?
Mm-hmm. How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's going, Jose. Says here that you believe that souls and spirits do exist. Tell us why you believe that.
Why?
That's correct. So I'm convinced that they do because I've seen them for myself.
Okay. How did you determine that what you saw was a soul or a spirit? What was your method of making that determination?
Because that's a great question. So,
thank you.
All right, I'll share my story, if you will. It'll be super quick.
Got it.
So, I mean, numerous times while falling asleep, I'm 25 years old, and this stuff like this started happening, I don't know, 3-4 years ago. So, on numerous occasions while falling asleep.
Falling asleep. Go ahead. Continue.
Body experiences.
Okay.
I've had like out of body experiences, if you will.
I might not.
Sleep, what appears to be, me, essentially float. I'm just gonna word it the way it felt, or the way how it was. Me floating out of my body, my own body, which I assume would be my soul, and then just floating out of my own body in my own room, and then seeing these human-like, entities, if you will, except there was no physical body. It was just like a soul or a spirit. That's, the idea of what we,
So there,
would picture that to be. So a being.
There's an interesting thing that we're right out of the gate. I've got all kinds of questions about your experience. Mm-hmm. So first, I just want to put on the table, I believe that you had the experience that you're describing.
Yeah.
But the question is, what was the cause of the experience? What can we know about the nature of this experience? Okay, because in my experience, what people describe as out of body experiences are still experiences. And as far as I know, your experiences happen in your brain, which is very much in your body. So how do we determine that the experience that you're describing as out of body didn't happen in your brain, which is very much in your body?
Well, being that I'm not a scientist or some, neuroscientist or anything of that nature, pretty much all I can do is just share my experience, and which is why I'm convinced, which is why I'm a theist.
Wait, which is why you're a theist?
That's why you're a theist? Is because you were falling asleep and you had phenomenon that you ascribed to out of body and spirit perception?
Yeah, what does one have to do with the other?
Yeah. Well, now you just open up a can of worms here.
We got all excited.
Jose, you're good. You're good. You're safe. It's good. It's good cop today. It's okay. All right. That's what they would say, though, isn't it? They would say that. Okay. First of all, like I said, okay, flagging it. You said you were falling asleep. I've fallen asleep. I've heard noises. Does that mean the noises were there? No. I had an experience. Drifting in and out of sleep does stuff. You perceive things that may not actually have existence in the material world. It could be a psychological phenomenon. It's well documented that when people are falling in and out of states of consciousness, that things that the conscious mind can confuse a dream world with reality. I've had all the time. I have a lot of dreams, a lot of active dreams. And in the moment, I'm completely convinced that they're happening. And then I wake up and I realize, no, that didn't happen at all. But this sounds like it was a very subtle dream. It sounds like it didn't happen for a while, then it started happening. I go through phases where my dreams are extremely realistic. But you seem to have arrived at a conclusion, and I wonder that this is the soul, that this is the spirit, that there's a spirit realm and a physical realm. But you identified as a theist, and then you said you don't believe because of these experiences, but you do believe in the existence of gods, and spirit realms, right?
I guess what I'm saying is that those are the reasons why I'm convinced that there are supernatural and or God, or because I've seen it for myself. Or
so I'm just trying to place a seed of doubt in your mind as a heathen atheist kind of guy over here, big skeptic guy. I would encourage you to look at how out of body experiences can be induced in like laboratory settings. There's a lot of research into this. So before arriving at a conclusion, I understand that you're convinced, but before allowing yourself to be convinced, I think that it can be a good idea, if you care about whether your beliefs are true, to make sure that state of being convinced is, proportioned to the amount of evidence that we have. So,
yeah, Jose, we're not taking anything away from the experience that you had, that the phenomenon that you apprehended. We're not taking anything away from you as a person, but I think what Kenneth and I are saying is look into the psychology of sleep and hallucinations. It doesn't take anything away from you as an intelligent person who is trying to understand your world, but I think it's to your benefit if you put a little asterisk in your I reached this conclusion. Let's step away from that a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't want to give you homework. Okay. But what I'm hoping to do is get you to I want to get you to think about whether or not your state of being convinced is really justified yet, or if there's more work that could be done. I'm hoping to put a little crack in the certainty, so that you ask more questions.
That's fair. I mean, I guess that's fair. I'm convinced that it was, as real as daylight.
Well, and I'll just tell you straight up, the reason I'm not convinced is because it seems to me that there are potentially a number of explanations for what you experienced that don't involve souls and or spirits.
Yeah, and also my problem with the whole idea of souls and spirits is how does that work? Let's think about that. how does the soul interact with the meat bag that is your body? What is in the soul? How does any of that work? When you really zero in on that, when you look at the question of the soul and spirits, and you ask simple, basic questions, it starts falling apart. The concept starts falling apart. I mean, it makes sense when society was a little simpler and we didn't have as much knowledge about the material world and energy states that we do now, that there could be a kind of energy, whatever that means, out there. But now we kind of know a lot about energy, not everything. And we still haven't been able to measure any of this stuff. There's still no answer as to how a soul could possibly animate or interact with a physical body.
If it's immaterial, how do you see it? How do you interact with it at all?
Yeah. Is it tethered to your body, or does it exist anywhere in the universe? I know you say you're convinced, okay? But I'll ask you this. On a scale of 0 to 100, how convinced are you that you saw spirits and that souls exist, with 100 being 100%?
100%.
So there's nothing that could ever convince you otherwise?
No. I mean,
how many hours?
That's really interesting.
Yeah. Jose, how many hours have you spent researching neurology and the science associated with hallucinations?
I wouldn't say hours, but I have tried to research. There's just not that much like scientific study around it.
So you say you wouldn't say hours, but you wouldn't say hours. So is that minutes then?
Yeah,
You've spent several minutes researching hallucinations?
Yeah.
I think it's really important to just emphasize that the degree to which people are convinced about a claim has nothing to do with whether or not the claim is true. So I would imagine, Jose, that you have heard people talk about experiences that they've had that they're convinced about, but that you didn't follow them there to being convinced. Like if somebody told you that they experienced being abducted by an alien, would that be good enough for you?
Alien abduction.
Yeah. Would that be good enough for you to be like, okay, well, they had an experience and they've made a judgment about the cause of that experience. Therefore, I am justified in believing that their claim is true, whatever that claim may be.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. But I'm glad to hear you say that.
Yeah.
So we're in the same boat with regard to what you're saying, because, you know, I wonder about the value of 100% certainty, you know, in most situations. So yeah, I'm
even certain that I'm 100% certain, being that I am convinced or that I believe it, but I'm not 100% certain that it's true.
Okay, great. Yeah,
or I'm not making I'm not like making the claim like that this is 100% true. But I am 100% convinced.
What might be useful, if you do want to continue sort of researching this stuff, what might be a good predecessor before looking into like scientific literature, for example, is spending some time thinking about sort of what skepticism is and what it means, how to evaluate claims, asking yourself, when is it time to accept that a claim is true? You know, because there are more reliable ways to arrive at true conclusions than others. I'm going to just say it, like something like the scientific method works a lot better for finding conclusions that are consistent with reality than something like faith.
Right. So I do have a question.
Yeah.
As far as that goes, how can I word this? All right. So is it safe to say, and this is why I called, because I like atheists a lot and whatnot, but would it be safe to say that there's two options? Either I did see that, or B, I was hallucinating. Like either it's real or it's not.
I wouldn't frame it like that. Because you had the experience. Okay. So the question becomes, what's the best explanation for the experience? It would be like a true dichotomy to say you either did or did not see a spirit. But before we can even get there, I think there needs to be more work done in terms of like the methodology. How are you arriving at your conclusions?
Yeah, and Jose, can I say this too? I mean, there's a premium that we pay on certainty, on confidence, on boldness in this society, that I know the answer. I figured it out. I'm not wrong. I know what I'm doing. All of us fall prey to this. There's no real shame or diminishment of you as a person to say, you know what? I had an experience. I at one point I was damn convinced that it was spirits and souls, but I'm going to keep on looking into this. I'm going to try to be uncomfortable with not stamping it on my mind, not writing that in stone. I'm going to keep on exploring, and there's nothing wrong with changing your mind. And there's really nothing wrong with saying, I don't know. That was fucking weird. It seemed like spirits and ghosts, but I don't, I'm not sure.
Sure did.
And it sounds like that's where you're at. I mean, if I'm hearing you correctly, and I certainly don't want to put words in your mouth, that you recognize that you've had this experience and you're trying to figure out what to think about it, which is, that's awesome.
Yeah, keep it up. Don't stop. Here's the thing. Don't stop your investigation. You said you spent a few minutes looking into it. Cool. But people have been looking into this phenomenon for, I would dare say, tens of thousands of years.
A minute or two.
Yeah, more than a minute or two. Tens of thousands, millions of times of the minutes that you've spent. And they've never, some people have claimed a definitive answer. And then, oops, a couple years go by, we find there's a little thing in the brain you can tweak with, and suddenly you can turn on those experiences on and off with some regularity. Keep looking into it, and don't ever be satisfied with a final answer on stuff that humans have been struggling with forever.
I'll tell you, if you are interested in looking into this more, into sort of exploring the world of skepticism, I'd encourage you to start with folks like James Randi. You can find tons of videos and articles about the incredible work that he did. You can find there's just a ton of resources out there. I want to make sure that you understand that we're not being cynical. We're not saying no, souls and spirits don't exist. Our position is that we want to follow the evidence where it leads, and that we're not ready to believe something until there's sufficient evidence to justify that belief.
Right. All right. Well, I appreciate your time, and I wish I had, evidence to back up, my experience, but unfortunately I don't. But
go get it. Yeah, Jose,
I'll keep looking into it, and
awesome.
Yeah, go get the evidence and bring it back to us, and share us with what you find, and we'll work it through it with you.
We'll be here.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you so much. Kenneth, have you ever had any kind of a phenomenon like that sticks with you, sticks in your craw?
I mean, I used to think that like Jesus was talking to me when I would pray, and I would, there'd be thoughts in my heads, So I was a very, very like serious Christian for many years. Now I would say that those voices in my head were my own brain doing things. So yeah, I tend to be pretty skeptical about that kind of stuff. I've also been super sleep deprived in training environments in the Army, and seen stuff in the woods, but I was super sleep deprived. Like, of course I'm going to see stuff. So yeah.
It's always around sleep. I've heard my grandma call my name, right? And that makes me sad. Or I've had dreams of friends that are long gone, or dreams of my grandma. Actually, a lot of dreams of my grandma over the many years that she's been gone, and it's like, oh, but it's not convincing to me. So I wonder what it would be like if I had a dream, or I had a waking dream, or I had a moment at that twilight between waking and dreaming, where I was walking and talking and all that. Yeah. Footprints on the sand kind of stuff. I wonder if that would have happened then, if I would change my tune, but I don't think I would. Yeah. Do you think should we take one more caller? We're running up on the end of the show.
Absolutely.
All right. Who do you like?
I mean, I'm kind of interested in both.
Yeah, I am too.
Yeah, you want to do Jessica?
Let's do Jessica.
All right.
And I want to make sure that everyone talks before we get Jessica on the line. For those of you who are sensitive to sexual assault and child molestation kind of situations, that's what we understand this call might be about. Jessica, you're here with Kenneth and Johnny. What would you like to talk about with us today?
Hey guys, how you doing? I was actually going to give that disclaimer.
Okay, sorry about that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's totally fine. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So I had an experience 3 times over the past, I would say, 8-9 days. So I work special victims. My specialty is child abuse.
Yeah.
My job is to prepare these cases for prosecution.
Mm-hmm.
I have had, within the last week or so, 3 different Christians use the mysterious ways argument when I have asked them why my job exists if their God is who they claim he is.
Yikes.
Now,
How did that make you feel, Jessica?
Angry, mostly. I'm done being sad about it. I'm done being accommodating to them as, oh, they have a different belief than me or whatever.
Yeah.
I have no ability to do the work I do without keeping in mind the faces of the children and the families and the communities that are affected by the things that have happened. I cannot do my job without understanding the institutional issues that lead to the issues that my job deals with. And yes, some of those issues are child rape, child molestation, kidnapping, trafficking, exploitation, whatever can be done to a child. I have seen things that I will never speak about because I don't have words for them.
Yeah.
And to hear Christians and religious people dismiss those children, dismiss my experience, dismiss those children's experience, dismiss the drive that brought me to work special victims in the first place, which is my own experience with sexual abuse and rape, which I didn't need to have to want to do this work, but it did lend me a good perspective to be able to do. I'm on the legal side, not the police side. To listen to these people say, but God is good, God is loving, Jesus is good, God was watching over them while it happened. And he, one guy said to me, well, at least he didn't let the kids get murdered. And I was like, what? So I kind of want to parse this experience with you guys because you are my fellow atheists and you do disconnect morality from religion because that's necessary. When I say this to you, do I sound unreasonable? Because I want to make sure I'm not the one making a mistake here.
I don't think so.
There's 2 things that come to mind. Well, 3. First is no, I don't think you sound unreasonable at all. I think you sound like you're being traumatized by these experiences. The second thing is I just want to preface everything by going, it takes a special kind of person to be doing the kind of work that you're doing. It's necessary, essential work that you personally pay a psychological price for. So I just want to say thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you.
It's shocking how many people, as in our culture, in our country, do have these experiences of sexual abuse and trauma as kids. I'm one of them. So I sincerely appreciate what you do. The other thing, so while you were saying what you were saying, I was remembering a debate that I watched a long time ago. It was Sam Harris and William Lane Craig, for anyone who wants to check it out. But Sam said something that I thought was interesting. And this is not an endorsement of Sam Harris in any way. There's a thing that he said that resonated with me. So he talked about how there's a view that many religious people hold that is incredibly narcissistic. There's this idea that God loves you, and you make assessments when good things happen in your life as being expressions of God looking out for you and loving you as an individual. And when bad things happen to other people, or even to yourself, there's this sort of hand waving of being like, well, God's mysterious. Who can understand what he's up to? But it's this same, I want to say, Sam said, it's like this merely human understanding of God that you're using to establish both his goodness and his mysteriousness. And you can't really have it both ways. It is a way of disassociating yourself from the very real suffering of other people. It's a way of not having to care about what other people are going through. And in my opinion, it is one of the most toxic elements of religion.
Yep. That's completely inexplicable to me when Christians are commanded to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, give drink to the thirsty, heal the sick, visit the imprisoned. These are the 5 corporal works of mercy. I too grew up in the Catholic Church.
There you go.
And my dad's Jewish, though, so my brothers and I were like, "Oh, it's all bullshit." Okay, and now we're all like,
Jessica,
I will tell you.
Well, I just want to say that the chat is giving you a lot of love for the work that you do and for the compassion that you feel and the anger. I think that Kenneth and I are a little bit seething right now. I think a lot of the people out there are too.
Yeah. We just want to validate you. I mean,
keep up the good work.
I appreciate that a lot.
Please also remember this. Not every person who believes in God or gods, spirit realms, all that stuff are shit heels like that. Yeah, most are not.
I agree.
Shit heels. That's a theological term.
It's a technical term of art.
Heels, right.
Those people are coping with a difficult situation in the wrong way, in the least sensitive way, in a crass way. They don't have an answer, so they just punt to God. But a lot of the people that I know, who I care about, who are friends of mine who believe in stuff that I don't believe in, they're going to be just as furious and would be just as traumatized as you are learning about it, and would struggle with it.
Why don't they ask their God to stop it and expect him to stop it? Surely an omnipotent God could have created a world free of these things. If their God is master of the universe, as they claim he is, then he could have created a world with none of these problems, and I could just be frolicking in a field somewhere instead of talking to the family of a poor 11-year-old boy.
In the sky, Lord, in the sky. I know, you're right.
Ain't it some shit that you can conceive of a better world than a perfect God could, apparently. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's the duality of man, right?
If I'm imperfect, of course. And if I'm such an imperfect human, how am I already more moral than this God who will not stop the abuse of children?
Yeah. I'm comfortable nominating Jessica for the new God.
So far, you're making a good case for yourself, Jessica.
Yeah.
What's your stance on typhoons?
Typhoons, hate them. Don't want them.
No, but they're good for fertilizing the land. Can we schedule them so people go on a nice vacation and then there's a typhoon?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
All right. Sounds good. Taking suggestions, people.
Universally legal weed. Yeah, universally legal weed. Change some laws about DV and child abuse. The good stuff, perpetual sunshine when you want it, just snap your fingers, get your favorite food. Like, if I'm an omnipotent deity, I'm going to do that shit. You know what I'm saying?
There's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. Jessica, we're going to have to cut you right now, but not literally.
No problem.
We're going to have to cut you from the show right now and put you back into the world where you're doing good work. But I want to tell you this. You might want to consider calling into secular sexuality, because that kind of sexual trauma issue might be a lot of people that watch there might want to know more about it, how you deal with sexual trauma. Of course, Christy Powell, Rudy B, and all the other hosts there are super dynamite. Love them all. But check that out. That's on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central, I believe it is. You might also go to Recovering from Religion, because they deal with a lot of religious trauma there and the trauma associated with religion. I don't think this is your
awesome
direct trauma because of religion, but
I never bothered with God. I never bothered with God. Ever since the Catholics made me dress up as Catherine of Siena when I was 4 years old and put an actual wheel on my back and made me say the sentence, "I am St. Catherine of Siena, and I was martyred for refusing to give my virginity to a pagan king."
Oh. Well, we've all been there.
Yeah. I was St. Francis de Sales, and I liked it. I don't know, but I had a good time.
How were you martyred? Were you
I don't
martyred
remember.
And painfully? All for the glory of God, though. More bloody, the more painful, the more glory.
Jessica,
Well,
keep up the good work.
Really appreciate it. You
Call back.
Yeah.
Tell us how you deal with it, please. We really enjoyed talking with you. You know, we'll take your call next time. Look, Kenneth, I think we got to wrap up this show. What do you think?
Too. I do too. It's been loads of fun. Catch us in Discord, people.
Yeah, we're going to be in Discord. I don't know how on earth this happened so fast, but where else can we find you aside from on this show? Where else are you, Ken?
There's a YouTube. There's a Twitter. I mean, there'll be a link tree, I'm sure, in the chat because our mods are incredible and are more on top of things than I ever could be. So yeah, right. Mods, crew, amazing people.
Mm-hmm. Let me tell you a few things, folks watching out there in YouTube land and podcast junction, listeners in the dark while you're getting that wicked pump. Please become a member. Click on the link down below or wherever it is. Like this video. Share it with your friends and family and coworkers that you're cool with, the ones that you've made that connection with. Don't send it to your boss just in case. Subscribe to all the AEN shows, the Atheist Experience Network shows. Ring all of the bells that you've ever found in your life so that you get the notifications that you want. Listen to the podcast, tiny.cc/AEN podcasts. Find us on Discord. We're going to be there right after the show, tiny.cc/ACA Discord. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/Talk Heathen FG. If you can afford to, support us on Patreon at patreon.com/Talk Heathen to me. Select the ACA for your smile.amazon, your Amazon Smile account, but also remember to support fair labor practices both in and out of the United States of America. You can email us at heathens@atheist-community.org. And here's my final spiel. All right. If you are an essential worker, we want to thank you for everything that you do to continue to keep our world turning. Kenneth, I said before, we're going to send some love rings out. Can we send out some love rings for the essential workers?
Hadouken.
Kapla. We love rings. They're great. They're cool. But frankly, all workers deserve a living wage along with love rings. So heathens, let's activate to make that happen. Call your senators and Congress people. Find out what laws are being proposed, what bills are in the pipeline. Support businesses who respect their workers. Now, to those of you who don't believe in gods or goblins or Gehenna or nighttime ghosts, whatever it might be, this has been a really rough year for all of us. Many of us have lost someone close. Some of us have actually died, and some have been grabbed by conspiracy thinking, and others have just walked off into the sunset. Now, our lives go on, and so does our need for friendship and learning and growth and hope, and for a place we can call home, whether it's our physical home or a place we can go where we have friends and family of another kind, right? Talking about home, I want to get the crew up on screen because I want to say some things about the crew.
Speaking of community.
Yeah. These are the folks who are the show right here. Mr. Orb over there. Okay. We're talking about this show, AXP, Truth Wanted, Secular Sexuality, and even the #1 show on the Atheist Experience Network. Kenneth?
That's the nonprofits.
Yeah, I'm talking about the nonprofits.
Question. Yes.
These are the people, and a whole lot more people who you can't see right now that are behind the scenes, dedicating their precious lives, parts of their precious lives, giving up hours for something that they believe in. I'm talking about volunteer video and audio engineers, call screeners, clippers, the folks who answer emails, create the artwork, schedule guests, coordinate volunteers while dodging wallabies or whatever they do in Australia, develop new content, make sure that we get the tech so we can be seen by you. The mods on Discord, YouTube live chat, Facebook, and they're you too. They're the viewers who take a break from your responsibilities and to learn something new and challenge your preconceptions, including the people we don't agree with, right? Without all this support, Kenneth and me, all this razzle dazzle that you see is just two people having a Zoom call talking about religion.
Yeah.
And all of these shows that you watch that I just mentioned are just entertainment. Without you out there, right, making things happen in the world that we have to live in and are fortunate enough to share. So you are out there. You're working within and without the ACA. As an activist, as a volunteer, as a YouTuber, as a podcaster, as a teacher or parent raising the next generation of skeptical humanists, or even just someone having difficult but respectful conversations with friends and family. And you're doing it with creativity and compassion and grit, and engaging not only with those who agree with you, but especially with those who don't. And we want to hear about it. So come back and talk heathen with us. Now, for those of you who do believe that gods and spirit realms exist, we don't hate you.
We're just not convinced.
See you next time.